What's going on, yo? What's going on? What's going on? All right. So we have these two, um, this couple. They're suspected WS, right? Um, but they said something in this conversation about the gender wars in class that I found fascinating. Shout out to my subby that sent this to me. You can shout yourself out in the comments. Um, and we're going to start off with something that Kim Foster said about Ebony K. Williams over a year ago at this point, and something I said over a year ago, also, really about a year and a half now, to Obsidian, right? And then we'll get into what this couple is saying, right? So we'll play this from Kim Foster first, then Mr. Z, then we'll get underway. All right, y'all.
I am having a hard time with the idea that this conversation and the backlash is primarily about people's disdain for classism, because I don't even think people really have an issue with classism. That's the thing. I don't think people generally have a problem with elitism, as long as they're not on the outside. You have a problem with a woman you think is too old, not pretty enough, too aggressive, saying, this is my boundary, this is my line. That's it. It is not about protecting working class Black men. It is about punishing, quote unquote, uppity Black women. And that's why I don't give a fuck. All of a sudden, everybody want to be a champion of the working class. All right, sure.
Of course, Miss Foster would say that because she occupies that elitist asshole group of Black women who condescend down to everyone, but namely working class, blue collar, quote unquote, uneducated, quote unquote, unsophisticated Black men. So, of course, when Ebony was making her rounds and telling you she wouldn't date the bus driver, her prerogative, Mr. Z didn't have a problem with it, right? Of course, this would be Miss Foster's angle. Why Mr. Z covered it back then, why Mr. Z's bringing it up now, is to stress Miss Foster minimized the class element of it all and said that's not the issue. Y'all have a problem with a Black woman that you don't deem as worthy having anything to say that excludes you, even if you wasn't checking for her in the first place. But be very clear, she made sure to minimize that. And you will see this oftentimes with these particular archetypes, not just Black women, but women. In our case, Black women. They ascend to a certain position. They have the education. They might have a bit of status, some money. They might have grew up, especially for the Foster types, they grew up a certain way. They don't connect with Black women on much of anything. Your average Black woman. Except for Negroes ain't ish. Huh? Except for that. And that's the button they keep on pressing with your average Black woman. Meanwhile, they're your average Black woman's class enemy. They're pushing luxury beliefs to your average Black woman. Luxury beliefs that Miss Foster can afford. Luxury beliefs that Crystal and Karazin could afford. Luxury beliefs that Chrissy can afford. Luxury beliefs, right, that Mahogany Pete can afford. That Lexus Exodus can afford. That Real Talk with Yanni can afford. That Paris Milan can afford. Your average Black woman can't afford it. That Cynthia G can afford. Huh? These folks, these women, are your average Black woman's class enemy. Mr. Z's been saying it from the jump, from the start. Right? So, of course, Miss Foster would minimize the class element of it all. Here's Mr. Z, Obsidian, and from those of you, y'all might have been here early last year, early 2024. I think it was January 2024, right? When Obsidian popped up on the channel. And I have this little excerpt of Obsidian, Mr. Z, I think BGS, Black Uru. There was a bunch of us on the panel. I think Dr. Thunder had just dropped off. He was a part of the panel also, right? And y'all listen to this. This is Mr. Z about a year and a half ago saying this. Here you go.
Having a really nice brunch.
She said it's not about, throwing you in prison or whatever, but she wishes you starve. She wants you to feel the pain. She wants you to be deplatformed. She wants you to hurt. And I'm glad she said that. I'm glad, because that's what it always was. Excuse my language, Obsidian, as an elder, but I got to use this word like this. Little niggas like you were never supposed to be able to go back and forth with her.
Yeah.
No.
That's what her issue is. It was never supposed to. As a Ivy League educated black woman, a blue collar black man was never. She was never supposed to know you existed. And there you go. Because women like her are always supposed to be above black men in general. Definitely black blue collar men. Oh, blue collar black men. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
and y'all, we got BGS and Obsidian. BGS and Black Guru in here. Go ahead.
BGS made this point about when I had some of you might remember this. I had an interview. Actually, it was in the summer of 2020.
I remember. Yep, I remember.
Finally released in early 2022, Elle magazine. Yeah. So the actual interview was nothing like what appeared in the magazine. So I had taped it, and I said to myself, "That's just insurance that in case something like that happened, I could release the actual interview to the public." So I did, and BGS did a review of it, and he had said words to the effect of, and he said basically what you said, Mr. Z. He said, Obsidian's a blue collar brother, but as you can clearly see, he's pretty much dog walking his sister from the University of Pennsylvania. So yeah, you're right. I think that is a kind of big shock about me, and not all, because there are a lot of highly educated brothers in the black manosphere, even to the level of PhDs. But there are brothers like myself, and as BGS rightly pointed out, the secret sauce is that we're always going at it all the time. He even describes it as a culture of Mandalorians. So we're always going at it. That's the reason why we keep our blades sharp all the time. So,
I was born in the dark. You adopted it.
The universities, the schools used to serve as gatekeepers of educational class. So as Mr. Z referenced to earlier, in the past, she would not have to engage in someone who was intellectually superior to her, but just didn't happen to matriculate into a university. Now she must engage in somebody who is smarter than her, who might have never even seen the gates of a university or college. And it's very daunting because they have no preparation for that.
That's what. Remember I tell you, Mr. Z. Now they're coming into our battlefield.
And they're not ready.
And they're not ready.
Pikes on heads for everyone.
Girls are never prepared to have a fair fight with boys.
Huh? Shout out to Black Guru for that ending. Huh? Yikes. So y'all, while Mr. Z plays this, right? Once again, this is a couple, married couple. They're suspected WS. We already know. Huh? But even people that you oppose and people that you disagree with and people that might want to see you as a permanent underclass for eternity, sometimes it behooves you to listen to them, because every once in a while they're going to say something that you might agree with. Huh? So we're going to play this, and I want y'all to think of and consider the two videos I just played as we're playing this, right? So let's do this first. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use, right? As a matter of fact, Mr. Z need to do this first. Y'all gives you a second. Y'all gives you 1 second before we get to it. All right, y'all, we're back. We're back. All right, we're back. We're back. Okay, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me get a 1 in the chat if you guys can still hear me, please, and thank you. And we will get underway. Once again, fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. And here we go, y'all.
Due to their sort of tribal centralized nature to the class norms that are normative to
oh boy, this did not start the way I needed to. Y'all gives you a second.
Are drawn to a class identity
Of course, with technical difficulties all over the place, y'all. Technical difficulties all over the place, and I will put the volume up for you guys in 1 minute once this thing loads up. We had a issue here. So what I'll do so that this could run smooth for the replay gang. Shout out to the replay gang. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. As this is loading up, we're gonna play these things back to back once again. And then hopefully by the time we finish playing these, we will have this thing loaded and then we could just get right to it. And we'll, give our usual normal commentary. All right, y'all. So once again, fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use.
I am having a hard time with the idea that this conversation in the backlash is primarily about people's disdain for classism, because I don't even think people really have an issue with classism. That's the thing. I don't think people generally have a problem with elitism as long as they're not on the outside. You have a problem with a woman you think is too old, not pretty enough, too aggressive, saying, this is my boundary, this is my line. That's it. It is not about protecting working class Black men. It is about punishing quote unquote uppity Black women. And that's why I don't give a fuck. I'll say everybody want to be a champion of the working class. All right, sure.
Having a really nice brunch.
She said it's not about, throwing you in prison or whatever, but she wishes you starve. She wants you to feel the pain. She wants you to be deplatformed. She wants you to hurt. And I'm glad she said that. I'm glad, because that's what it always was. Excuse my language, Obsidian, as an elder, but I got to use this word like this. Little niggas like you were never supposed to be able to go back and forth with her.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what her issue is. It was never supposed to. As a Ivy League educated Black woman, a blue collar Black man was never. She was never supposed to know you existed. And there you go. Because women like her are always supposed to be above Black men in general. Definitely black blue collar men. Oh, blue collar Black men. Oh, come on. Yeah. and y'all, we got BGS and Obsidian. BGS and Black Guru in here.
BGS made this point about when I had some of you might remember this. I had an interview. Actually, it was in the summer of 2020.
I remember. Yep, I remember.
Finally released in early 2022, Elle magazine. Yeah. So the actual interview was nothing like what appeared in the magazine. So I had taped it, and I said to myself, "That's just insurance that in case something like that happened, I could release the actual interview to the public." So I did, and BGS did a review of it, and he had said words to the effect of, and he said basically what you said, Mr. Z. He said, Obsidian's a blue collar brother, but as you can clearly see, he's pretty much dog walking his sister from the University. So yeah, you're right. I think that is a kind of big shock about me, and not all, because there are a lot of highly educated brothers in the Black manosphere, even to the level of PhDs. But there are brothers like myself, and as BGS rightly pointed out, the secret sauce is that we're always going at it all the time. He really started as a culture of Mandalorians. So we're always going at it. That's the reason why we keep our blades sharp all the time. So
I was born in the dark. You adopted it.
The universities, the schools used to serve as gatekeepers of educational class. So as Mr. Z referenced to earlier, in the past, she would not have to engage in someone who was intellectually superior to her, but just didn't happen to matriculate into a university. Now she must engage in somebody who is smarter than her, who might have never even seen the gates of a university or college. And it's very daunting because they have no preparation for that.
That's what. Remember I tell you, Mr. Z. Now they're coming into our battlefield.
Yeah, and they're not ready.
And they're not ready.
Pikes on heads for everyone.
Girls are never prepared to have a fair fight with boys.
And once again, fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use.
Hello, Malcolm. I'm so excited to be with you here today because we're going to talk about the gender wars, which we don't talk about nearly enough. We never talk about gender on this channel.
No, never men or women.
No.
But you heard a crazy theory that really clicked for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I came across this argument that gender wars are not really about gender, but rather about class differences, and specifically between upper middle class women and lower middle class men. And this came from Cartoons Hate Her on Substack, who made this argument. And she largely implies that basically gender wars participants aren't aware of this, but I'm going to argue that they are. And then I'm also going to argue that it could very well be that all conflicts are class conflicts. And there are some really telling examples. But I think ultimately, if we acknowledge this class resource distribution issue as the underlying cause of most, if not possibly all, intergroup conflicts, maybe we can navigate them more smartly. But let's get into it. You ready?
I'm going to push back.
So before we continue, did Mr. Z not say this a year and a half ago? Actually, I've been saying it for a while. But did Mr. Z not say this in a year and a half ago? Also, when Mr. Z says the outliers are doing too much talking, the outliers are too loud, this is what we're saying. Y'all are pushing luxury beliefs that will not work for the masses. A lot of the right and a lot of the left are pushing luxury beliefs that will not work for the masses. It sound good, good ideal, but what are working class folks supposed to do with that? Uh-oh. Huh? Huh? So you have this couple here, once again, suspected WS, that are saying you have upper middle class women who are going back and forth with working class, lower middle class men. Huh? I just said this, well, I just played it, concerning Miss Foster and Obsidian. Consider that the back and forth that me and Chrissy have had. I'm not sure if she grew up upper middle class. I'm pretty sure she grew up solidly middle class, trending to upper class. Mr. Z grew up working class. There are a lot of these, particularly in the black community, these women that either have it right, they just got to money, or they definitely grew up with some access. That would be Miss Foster, and they're disgusted that they have to engage, or at least they had to engage. They're in a community stuck with men like Z in this jersey color. Huh? Yikes. Continuing.
I'm going to push back on one area here. I'm
Okay,
going to
yeah.
argue something else,
Okay.
which is that what creates this class divide is that male communities will be drawn, due to their sort of tribal centralized nature, to the class norms that are normative to the community broadly. Whereas female communities are drawn to a class identity, to the class identity that is shared by the most elites within the community. And so even
come on.
So I agree. It's weird because he, once again, suspect WS here. So what is he saying? He's saying, and they're going to go into further detail in a little bit, that even essentially your elite man is still virtue signaling and adopting some of the wardrobe, some of the parlance of your everyman to identify with them. I'm just like you. That's the men. The women, on the other hand, are all living vicariously through, a Ebony K. Williams, a Kim Foster. Name your female celebrity. Huh? This is why they're so invested in, as a matter of fact, that's a perfect example, Z. When the Ebony K. Williams thing came out, why you want her to date a bus driver? Ma'am, you made $37,000 last year. Why are you so invested in Ebony K. Williams' dating life and sex life, or lack thereof? Oops. Huh? Because they're all aspiring, as this young man said, to the elite women and what they're dealing with. Huh? This is what Mr. Z says. Number one, the outliers are doing too much talking. Number two, y'all ain't telling the women the truth, are y'all? Y'all are gonna watch them suffer. And all y'all gonna have for them is the Negroes ain't ish trope. Miss Foster and her ilk will be able to insulate themselves with some status and some money. Julesy and them gonna be able to insulate themselves with some status and some money, with some connections. All the masses of black women, that's why Mr. Z says Gypsy class of America, Roma class of America, shout out to Trell Bentley. Huh? Y'all land a suspected WS just come straight up the middle and say, yeah, this is a class game. And you see that along the lines of marriage. 26% of poor Americans are married. 39% of working class Americans are married. 56%, and this is as of 2017. All those numbers got worse, but once again, let's say it again, Z. 26% of poor Americans are married. 39% of working class Americans are married. And 56% of middle class and above Americans are married. When you track divorce, it tracks along those lines also. Class. Huh? Kiss your hypergamy goodbye, ladies. You wanted to go to college, you got that. Now you're attending college and graduating more than the men. Kiss your hypergamy goodbye. Go fight for the elite rich, mainly white dudes. Yeah. I thought Mrs. Z was just talking crap when I said that. Yeah, that's it. Continuing.
Influencers who set tones intentionally code themselves as lower middle class.
Oh God, you're right though. No, it's true. Even the really wealthy ones come across as so trashy. It's so bad.
Whereas the female elites code themselves as middle upper class Manhattanites.
Yeah, it's like old money versus new money. Gender edition.
Like Tim Pool or something, and like the way he dresses on his show. Or like
like Andrew Tate, or like the guy who wakes up at 4 a.m. and shoves his face in ice buckets of water. They all give off a very new money aesthetic. Whereas literally, like women are constantly, like right now, a sort of trending thing on Instagram and TikTok is sort of this old money summer aesthetic that like people like Hailey Bieber are not pioneering, but popularizing. So it is actually, that's really interesting that also when each class is trying to show off wealth, there is men go to new money and women go to old money now.
That's not what I said at all.
Well, okay. Well,
I didn't say new money. Consider who is actually rising within the male spaces, or who would when they were. So when Andrew Tate was rising in fame, he didn't go to new money coding. What he went to was traditional masculine things like boxing, kick fighting, stuff like that. If you look at the male influencers who have risen within conservative spaces recently, you have individuals like Asmongold, who intentionally codes as lower middle class, even though he could very easily got a lot more money if he wanted to.
Oh, that's interesting.
Whereas, or consider Bronze Age pervert, very intentionally codes as lower middle class, even though he went to Yale.
Or almost a stoic ascetic. They're like taking the Socrates approach.
Bronze Age nationalist does this with a lot of his stuff. He doesn't. You wouldn't have known.
Yeah. No, his stuff's not about money at all. It's about like
if anything, a lot of people choose alternate persona.
So once again, they're just going into detail about some of these content creators, commentators, political analysts, all these folks on the white side, of course, who code themselves, as they said, as the everyman. Huh? This is where the plaid shirts come in and the lumberjack jackets, and these folks are worth 10 and 15 and 20 and 50 million plus dollars. Huh? Jet saying all around the country and maybe even all around the world. But they dress and speak as if they're the everyman. Huh? As opposed to the women who are every woman, rest in peace, Whitney, right? And yet they're all aspiring and living vicariously through the elite women. And that's why they all have to protect the queen whenever you hear some weirdo story about one of these elite, rich, or famous women, particularly, obviously, in the Black community. You have a bunch of 50, 40, 30 some odd $1,000 a year earning Black women sashaying around here like they're millionaires and billionaires. And so easily offended, as if they are those elite women. Continuing.
To hide that they are not in real life lower middle class individuals.
Oh, that's true. But also, yeah, there seems to be a correlation between like the actually upper class men are pretending to be lower class than they are, but then like the men who actually come from more middling backgrounds will act like new money.
And think about the way that the men who are trying to gain social status today, who even have like all the wealth you could want, are doing it. So consider somebody like Elon, right? Like, what does Elon do to try to raise his own social status when he has all the money you could ever have? He doesn't like dress in fancy clothes or anything like that. What he does is he posts controversial memes, and he creates a fake account to try to make it look like he's playing a lot higher level in video games.
The scandals of our time.
Hold on. That's he's making the wealthiest man on earth a huge amount of effort and ended up with a huge amount of social aid on his face to make it look like he was good at a lower middle class hobby.
That's a really interesting point. I wonder if they're just.
And yes, it is true. It is true. Elon was out here pretending like he was really good. What video game was it, y'all? What computer game was it? He was pretending like he was like the best of the best of the best. And then people caught him playing it live and he was trash. Huh? Yeah, Leon, you did send me it. And Leon's the one, yeah, exactly. Leon said, I think I sent you this. Oh, wait, I don't know if you're the one who sent me this, but the Elon thing, I think that you did send me. I can't remember. Cyrus says Path of Exile 2. That's the one that Elon was pretending like he was the king of. Huh? And let me read this from Inspired Truth now. And Inspired Truth says, and yeah, I remember that part. And we'll read it and then we'll address it. And Inspired Truth says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And Inspired Truth says, spoiler alert, Mazda will never be a classic. It depends on the Mazda. RX3s, FB RX7s, FC RX7s, FD RX7s, right? Maybe the RX8, right? No, there's Mazdas that are the Miatas, right? NBs, NCs, yeah, there's Mazdas that are definitely gonna be some classics. I think one of the old school, like 1970 something, or maybe early 80s Mazda pickup truck. There's Mazdas that definitely could become classics. Yeah, right. There's definitely Mazdas that's gonna be classics, right? So thank you for the super chat, Inspired Truth. Thank you for the super chat. The 929, which was the big ass Mazda back in the day, it used to compete against the Legend, the Acura Legend, the Infiniti Q45, the Lexus LS 400. Yeah, there's a couple of Mazdas that's definitely up there for classic, right? You could nominate for classic, yes. Cyrus says, just checked, it was Diablo 4. Okay, correction, everyone. Correction. Remember, we try to be precise on G's channel. I don't know how good of a job we do at it, but correction. So the game we were referring to with Elon is Diablo 4. That's what he was pretending like he was King Kong of, right? And thank you for that, Cyrus Burke. Thank you for that. And continuing, right? Here we go.
Good at a lower middle class hobby.
That's a really interesting point. I wonder if they're just evolutionarily divergent but equally valid approaches to a kind of realization on behalf of the collective online male id that they are in general lower middle class. And so either you can, as a male influencer, be like money signaling, like I have tons of money, look at all my money, or be like, I don't need money. I'm above money. I'm better than money.
I'm going to argue that what we're actually seeing here is a few things.
Okay.
It is the way that men build camaraderie and culture is part of the reason why they have normalized the lower middle class aesthetic.
Ooh.
But the other reason is the influence of the MAGA movement, and the MAGA movement, as I've noted in a number of my earlier episodes, a huge amount of cultural influence that comes downstream from the gender backwoods cultural group, which is known as like the redneck or hillbilly group in like popular parlance, which specifically has always really shunned the trappings of the upper classes, and intentionally would really work with all of the other forces that are driving this lower middle class coding, which is the area where you and I get called nerds the most, because we are some of the only conservative influencers who do not code strongly as lower middle class. And if you look at a lot of the attacks on us,
essentially what he's saying is, I ain't even gonna pretend with y'all. I was born with some money, enjoying my money. I'm not gonna pretend to be one of you peasants. Everyone else could play that game. I'm not you, you not me. Look, I got a last name worth a damn, you don't. Huh? And Compassion says, this sounds like class compression, like Negroes. It's gender war, class war. As they said earlier, it is upper middle class women battling lower middle class men, because they feel like society is telling them that you gonna have to end up, you wanted equality, you gonna have to end up with these dudes. If there's not enough men to marry you up there, you gonna have to end up with these dudes. Z, you gonna have to play the clip. Mr. Z gonna have to play the clip. Don't worry, it's not the one y'all think it is. I ain't gonna torture y'all with Munchkin. There's no need. But here you go.
Men and masculinity.
Yeah.
So
this is a new book, right?
This is what I'm writing about in my book, and as the sister of two brothers and the mother of two sons, particularly as the mother of two sons, I think about this a lot. And this goes exactly to truth and lies, because as feminist women, we want to be equal. But if you say to us, yeah, but you know what, male CEOs have full-time caregivers at home. Find me a male CEO who has a family, who has a wife or a partner, who is not the lead caregiver. I defy you to find me that person. So then you say to the same women, so if we want to be CEOs, yes, we're superhuman and all that stuff, but you know what? Actually, you can't really expect us to do 24/7 jobs any differently than the guys do. So if we're going to be there and we're going to be in those top positions, we need a lead caregiver at home, as I have. My husband obviously has a full-time job, that's great, but he's the lead parent, because I could not be the lead breadwinner if he were not the lead parent. I simply couldn't. Somebody's got to be home. I mean, even at 15 and 7, actually, particularly at 15 and 17, somebody has to be home.
Yeah, right.
As we discovered, we saw the Doll's House last night. We came home. Our 15-year-olds had been home alone. Somebody ought to be home. So
the place was trash.
it's a bit. Pizza boxes. We won't go there. So then you say, okay, so you want to be the CEO or the president of the university or the surgeon or the scientist, whatever. You've got to marry somebody who is willing to support you in the homework, the family work, in the way he's going to support you. Believe me, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do without him, but that's probably what you're going to have to do. And maybe you'll trade off, but he's going to have to do that part of the time. And at that point, many women get off the bus. They don't want to marry a guy like that. They don't think a guy like that is masculine. Indeed, the guys who do that, I know I'm in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is the home of, Brooklyn gives the lie to all this. There are more stay-at-home dads here than probably anywhere else in the U.S., or work-from-home dads, or lead caregiver dads, or however you want to put it. But in most places in the U.S., those dads report that the women they engage with on the on the playground think they're a little odd. Do not think of them as a model of masculinity. We can't have it both ways, right? Just as I was told growing up, don't be too smart. You don't be too smart around a guy. He won't want you. Well, right, that vision of femininity had to change. It had to change. Guys had to think that women who are powerful and smart and competitive were attractive, because otherwise we couldn't do it. Well, you know what? We have to think that a guy who puts his family first, that a guy who says, no, I want to be the lead parent. I'm going to defer a promotion. I'm not going to be the most powerful guy out there. We have to say, you are a masculine, valued, wonderful man. And if we can't get there, we are not going to make this kind of change, because we've gotten as far as we can get without doing that. We've got 15% of unbelievable super women who get really lucky, right, or who have a lot of money, or who are just really superhuman, who manage to make it work, but we're not going to get further than that. So it's really about changing the way we think about it. It's not only, but a lot of it is about changing how we think about men and what we think a masculine, attractive guy is.
That's the question for the coming generation, as it were.
Yep.
That's going to...
The women can't do it. They didn't actually mean equality. What they meant to say was, I want to be equal to the women up there at the top and to the men up there at the top. And then I want to choose one of the men that somehow magically earns more than me. You could kiss your hypergamy goodbye, ladies, for the masses of you at least, right? And KMS says, and thank you for the super chat, KMS says, transitive property of feminism, I quote unquote, I know that woman. We're the same. She was on a yacht, thus I need to be on a yacht too. That's what's sold. Yes. Right? That vicarious type of, well, me and her, we went to high school together. She wasn't that bad. She wasn't fine like that. And them dudes doing all of that for her? Well, me and her the same. So why are these Negroes doing that for me? How she get to be on the passenger side of the Ferrari, and I don't get to be on the passenger side of the Ferrari? And thank you for the super chat, KMS. Thank you for the super chat. And here we go.
I actually think that they are specifically due to the classes that we code as, rather than, like, when somebody says I'm a simp, I think a lot of that is actually just you do not code as lower middle class.
Because you wear educated liberal elite glasses frames from Color and Gross, purchased in Soho.
Yes.
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
Anyway, yeah. Okay. Then let's get into it though. I'll start by presenting the argument that inspired all this, because this episode is dedicated to Diana Fleischman, who gifted me a month of a free subscription to the Cartoons Hate Her Substack, because this was a paid post, and it is titled "The Gender Wars Are Class Wars." Subtitle: Of course we'll never agree. We're living in different realities. Also, though, just so you have a little respect for her. She's not like a liberal or conservative. She's more just having fun. She refers to herself as a terminally online normie mom and a former Reddit troll who earned a total IP ban. And I feel like if you're a troll who earned a total IP ban, like you deserve at least a little bit of attention and respect. But so the TLDR of her argument is that the main issue is not gender, instead it's class differences. And specifically, this is upper middle class women and lower middle class men. She argues these groups can't agree on the basic realities of social life. So each finds each other's anecdotes about dating and marriage and status completely implausible or fabricated, which is one of the reasons why I think they're like, oh, you're making this up or this is all cope. And then she points to some viral examples. Like,
I can appreciate that. Our realities are different. And so you have upper middle class women, or at least women that earn a significant amount, whether they were born into it or whether they climbed themselves into that in their early adulthood, right? Their realities and what they're speaking of when it comes to relationships and intimacy and sex and all of that is different, not only because they're women, but because they may occupy different circles, a different class, quote unquote class. Now, we appreciate the class compression in the Black community. And this is where I keep on using Miss Foster because I'm just using her as an avatar. It's really kind of not about her, but about the group of Black women that she represents, right? We're just using her as an avatar. You have women like that, and you have men like, well, Obsidian. And you see the difference, even though Obsidian is older than her by a bit. The class difference in what the Miss Fosters are saying, whether they have the ovaries to say it overtly or not, is I attended Harvard. I grew up upper middle class, or solidly middle trending to upper middle class. Stop associating me with those lower class loser ass men, especially the blue collar ones. Ew. Just because we have the same jersey color, that's not something I put on myself. That's something you put on me, white man and white woman. Huh? Right? And for society to say to them, particularly Black women, yeah, we know you're educated, your class, or whatever, whatever. But yeah, that's supposed to be your future husband or boyfriend. What did the lady say? What is her name? I have it from the tonight's conversations. When they asked her if you were making $300,000 a year, or what did they say, 5, and the man was making 70, but he was better than you in everything else in life except for the money. Could you date him? And she said, I would rather be single. That's what she said. She meant it, huh? She meant what she said. Let's see if we can pull that up. Y'all gives you a second. Mrs. E can't find it. That's what I get. I got so much stuff. But yeah, so that's a prime example, right? The women didn't actually mean equal. Not in that way, right? Not in that way. Anything but that, huh? So continuing.
or grad school marriage prospects is another example. I'm going to send you on WhatsApp just so you can see the thread. So specifically the hot nanny debate was I think sparked by a TikTok post that a Colombian nanny posted that caused a lot of the male members of the gender wars to be like, well, oh, of course the husband in this relationship is sleeping with a nanny. And they kind of like sort of dehumanized the unseen mother in the picture here of like, well, why bother, having kids if you're not even going to be around to raise them? And there's just sort of this, what she highlights is a deep disconnect between like actually having experience with nannies. Like most of the men who jump into the thread and comment on au pairs and nannies have never actually had them for themselves, don't really understand the dynamics, don't really understand like how gross it would feel if you slept with a nanny.
It'd be really gross to sleep with a nanny.
Wednesday, bad news. Uncle Fester is getting married. To who? The nanny. Get out of the cabin. I mean, I'd kill myself. The help? I think that's disgusting. I think they're like circus people.
Like I like the idea that somebody's like, and I even think about like my friends who have nannies and stuff like that, and we go play with them. It would be quite the like, okay, cheating on your wife within like tech elite social circles, as long as you guys, first, if you say like you're polyamorous, which a lot of them do, like it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost impossible to cheat in these elite circles because so many are polyamorous.
With the nanny, and she wasn't brought in knowing that this was the role she was going to play. That'd be seen as like really gross. Like this would
also it's like a lawsuit waiting to happen. Like the liability of it.
It's stupid. Like it's not that it never happens ever, but it's not a bigger threat than having your wife go to an office that you don't also work at. Which, by the way, is the number one place that women cheat. It's people they meet at the office. I think it's 80% of infidelity.
It's also how most people find relationships. Oh yeah, with the prominent Coldplay example that surely you've heard of at this point.
Yeah, the just went live. The Coldplay, the guy who was caught cheating with his HR. That, and she had a husband, it was my understanding.
Yeah, and he had a wife and kids.
is actually like where within like if you are a middle upper class couple or something like that, where the husband or wife is likely to cheat. Yeah. With the nanny who is like around the kids and stuff, and often comes from one like a totally different background. Is usually you're not gonna like. Keep in mind, a lot of these nannies are, I'd say, like conservative Catholic types. Like they're usually from like middle lower class, like conservative Catholic religious backgrounds. They're not the type who's looking to sleep around with their employer.
Yeah, and I.
They must have never heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Anyway, what they're saying is that like it happens, but it ain't what you think it is, right? And those circles, so they're saying you working class men, y'all been watching way too much porn cub. Right? You've been watching way too much prawn, better yet. Right? And y'all are imagining things. It happens. It's not that it's impossible. It just doesn't happen like you think it does. Yikes. So I get it. They're saying you're out of touch. You're not in our class, so you don't know. You imagine that a rich man who has a nanny, and then he makes sure it's an attractive nanny, and then eventually they sleep together behind the wife's back. And what they're saying is, unless she was bought in knowing that's what it was going to be, that's not really how this goes down. Huh? Continuing.
And are young and hot aren't sometimes looking for romance, but they're looking for romance their own age. And while there's a bunch of people who jump in the thread and are like, oh yeah, like she's definitely sleeping with the husband, nannies always do this. Like one guy who jumps in the thread, Nick Walker, he's like, funny how Twitter's automatically assuming she'd go for her client's husband when there's a 90% chance her fiance is better looking. And literally we have a colleague who was formerly a nanny in the US and now lives here and is married because while she was a nanny, she met a guy her age who was awesome, who she then married. Like,
well, no, and I would like to point out, I think that people aren't really thinking through this. Okay, so you can look at the woman in this, I'll try to post a picture of it. You can see she's a very attractive woman. And that's what's causing people to think this, right?
Yeah.
But what they're not considering is the world from this woman's perspective. So I am this woman. I am young, very attractive. I'm likely from a developing country, but right now I'm staying with a wealthy family in a place like Manhattan or San Francisco. Yeah. I want to play my cards. Well, I'm even a hypergamous woman. What am I trying to do? I am trying to lock down a wealthy tech bro to marry me, not sleep with a guy who's paying me a fixed fee.
Well, and also just considering, like, even looking at the bigger meta of it, this is a a Colombian nanny who has posted this video on TikTok. She's literally advertising how hot she is, but also what a great mother she would be. Because this video shows her doing all these sweet things for the kid. The kid obviously loves her. And a lot of people also chime in the thread to say, like, wow, I wish, like, she's great.
She's fishing with the thing
Yeah,
is,
she's using her opportunity to advertise what a good wife she will be. She's not trying to be the other.
Y'all bear with.
No, but what's funny is guys are watching a video, and you are here noticing like a class difference between groups where you're seeing this flare up of a person who is literally and flagrantly, if I was her like employer or something, you'd be like, hey, that's pretty unprofessional to be looking for a husband on TikTok using your nannying job. You're watching her do something that is actually a violation, is actively unprofessional, is actively out there in a way looking for a real long-term partner.
Yeah.
And you think that she's trying to sleep with the husband?
You think she's putting her job at risk? Because I'm sure if the parents saw this, they'd be kind of pissed. Because she's not hiding a kid's face or anything. A lot of parents are really sensitive about that. Not us.
It's not that I've never had nannies hit on me, but it's like you wouldn't consider it, right? Like you'd be like, oh, that's a giant lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah, like
destroy my family.
Definitely not do.
Thank you, Trell, because I was talking to myself. Okay, and let's read this from Mackie Samuels. And Mackie Samuels is saying, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And Mackie Samuels says, are you saying that there is no class difference in the Black community? And do you believe that most blue collar men would be comfortable dating / marrying upper middle class college educated women? What I'm saying is that the men are far more comfortable than the women are in dating across class lines. I do believe there's a class difference. I think it's very blurry because we live in a white supremacist neo-colonial ethno state. So what is your class really? Huh? What is your class really? So I do believe that there's some class distinction within the Black community, but I think the lines are real blurry and fuzzy, particularly for Black men, because we already saw the Brookings Institute study, or not study, but information that came out that said 70% of Black boys that grow up, with upper middle class come back down to working class. 70% for Black boys that become Black men that grew up some type of, air quotes, privileged in the Black community, right? So that's a prime example of how blurry that class line is. In one generation, you grew up upper middle class or some type of quote unquote privileged as a Black child, and you're working class. There you go. And this is my point. And Telescope says race mitigates class to some extent in the U.S. That's my point exactly. Thank you, Telescope. Huh? So continuing.
Yeah, like let's definitely not do that. Yeah, and I mean, I think there's this big, because of a few very high profile examples of people sleeping with nannies, there's this perception that it's just pervasive. And even your mom was like, don't ever get a hot nanny. Then I see these archival videos of your childhood, and I'm like, who's the hot woman in the bikini playing with you guys? It's not your mom. Who's this hot woman in Italy, like sitting in your bedroom? And it's like you had hot young au pairs all the time. Yeah. So, and there were no problems. And yeah, you had a mixture.
There's just not a huge benefit from the perspective of the au pair to sleep with the old, ugly, rich guy, or even medium age, because he's already married, he has kids, and the likelihood that they are going to break up the marriage or get him to pay her like some side amount is so much less of a good time investment than just using the fact that she's from a developing country and now in Manhattan to try to lock down a husband.
And that's the thing, is being in these families exposes you to so many marriage prospects. And I think they're also just not realizing that. Like, they're not even modeling.
Shout out to Tiger Woods' ex-wife. Oops. Continuing.
Well, what they are familiar with is tropes. The trope of the nanny that seduces the dad.
Yeah.
I know we'll have in our comments somebody being like, "Oh, I'm aware of it happening here," and I'm not saying it never happens.
No, of course.
I'm saying it's not something that I would actively be worried about, or you would actively be worried about.
Yeah. She also, and this is something we talked about in our AI episode, how like social class can mean different things. Like you can be wealthy but still be considered low class by many people, and you can be impoverished but still be mixing in the most elite circles. And she points out that.
So that's what I was saying about the Black community, what she just described, kind of in an offensive way, but that, right? That the way we kind of hopscotch in the Black community, that fuzzy ass class line, right? And your associations, not just the position you individually hold or your family holds, but your associations, your friends, maybe. Huh? Continuing.
By many people, and you can be impoverished but still be mixing in the most elite circles. And she points out that status is interpreted differently by each side. So like lower middle class men emphasize status as key to male attractiveness, while upper middle class women often don't even recognize their own status advantages as such. So there's just this, they are, as she
Upper middle class women don't even acknowledge, what did she say? Understand or acknowledge their class differences? I mean, you have them, the Harvard educated Miss Foster. She likes humble bragging about it, right? You have some, yes. They'll acknowledge their class difference when they feel like society's telling them to end up with men they feel they're better than. These women will acknowledge their class difference when they feel like society's telling them, oh yeah, those men, you're not going to relegate me to those. I'm better than that. Ew. Huh? Continuing.
She highlights what you mean by what you just said.
Huh?
You just said lower class men see status as.
Lower class men see status as key to their attractiveness, as like the thing that they need. And once they get
the woman's.
And women are. Sorry, what are you asking?
You're not. You say lower class men see this as key to their, but you're not defining who their is in this sentence. Is it the lower class?
As key to male attractiveness.
Okay, and women see it as key or not key to their.
Women don't. They often don't even recognize their own status advantages as status advantages. Like they're not aware of the fact that their income or education grants them advantages. They're like blind to it. Whereas men are like.
I don't know about this part, because when pressed or when questioned, particularly in the Black community, Black women will just straight up say, no, I went to college, I did this, I did that. I'm not going to date that guy. I'm not going to marry that guy. I might have sex with that guy, but I won't marry a real hell no. Huh? So, I don't know. Huh? Continuing.
Grants them advantages. They're like blind to it. Whereas men are like highly attuned to it.
Well, because it doesn't affect the women's advantage on dating markets as much as it affects the men's advantage on dating markets. That's why they don't notice it.
Yeah.
It's surprising they don't see it.
No, of course not. I mean, the dynamics make perfect sense. She also highlights that people tend to date and marry just within their own class and within their own educational background without realizing it. And I think that especially maybe on both sides, there's this aspect, like women often talk about certainly fantasize about marrying men who are wealthier or higher status than they are. But in the end, they marry people who are pretty well matched. And men, I think, fantasize about
statistically here.
Women.
This I agree with her on. The goal is hypergamy, and they end up with dudes on their level. Shout out to Lion. You ended up on your level. Huh? The goal is hypergamy, but you ended up with a guy that earns about 5-10 grand more than you a year. If you're lucky, 20. Huh? But y'all are in the same class. You look a little bit better than him, which makes up for his 10, 15, 20 grand more than you a year. And there you go. America. Continuing.
Statistically here. Women, if you're talking about who people marry versus who people sleep with, yes, there's a huge problem for when people are sleeping.
Who people marry compared to who people sleep with. Let's let the suspected WS man finish this statement. Let's let him finish it. Here we go.
Around where women will all match to the same few, like whatever guys that are top 0.5%, and that they overly sleep with them, and that there really is a drought for the other men, and that women can, by dressing up and looking slutty, land some rich guy. If you're talking about who people actually end up marrying, it's the Daisy Buchanans. You can be what was the other woman's name in that? The one who gets killed and is sleeping with him. Can't remember the fate of the character, right? You can't remember her, but the Daisy Buchanans.
There's only one woman. It was just Daisy. It was always just Daisy.
No, there was the Birchroot or something. There was the lower class woman he was sleeping with. who ends up trying to like run out. To
Oh,
marry.
sorry. Yeah, the wife of the car mechanic.
Yeah, these women are always only like side pieces or something like that. Like the idea of as
He's saying what we've all said in the Black manosphere. Those men are not going to risk the life insurance money, the inheritance, grandpa's house, uncle's classic Mustang. In this case, not just for a Black woman, but for women that are not in his class. At most, you're a fun summer fling. You the side piece. So even the white woman can't be Miss Cartwright. God damn, Z. Oh, even the working class white woman can't be Miss Cartwright. Huh? Yikes. The Asian woman can't even be Miss Cartwright. Not the Asian woman, Z. Yep, the Asian woman can't even be Miss Cartwright. Maybe. Uh-oh. For these circles we talking about. Huh? There's not that many Les Moonves to find. There's not that many of them walking around here. Yikes. When you go from side piece to wife. Uh-oh. Exactly, Excalibur. Uh-oh. Huh? This is a rich white dude telling you straight up, hey, y'all be side pieces. We ain't messing with y'all like that. We pipe, but we marry the same women in our. But wait a minute. Did Z not say this already? Huh? Did we not say this already about working class white women and lower middle class white women? About Latinas, Asians, Black women, South Asian, East Asian, Southeast Asian. Those white dudes pipe. They not gonna marry y'all. Y'all are fun for a year. Y'all are fun for maybe even 2 years when they're in college and university with you. Huh? This is the rich white dude telling you how it go down. Huh? Y'all are props in their life. And shout out to some of the brothers. Uh-oh. Shout out to some of the working class, tall, chisel chin Chad, who's not from that class. Uh-oh. Tall, chisel chin Chad. She gonna let you pipe. Huh? And she gonna reminisce about you with her extra average ass white husband, Mr. Four Strokes, is doing his thing. She's thinking about you. But y'all didn't end up together because you ain't part of her class. Y'all were fun in college, though. Huh? That's what he's letting y'all know. We all knew this. That's why it's fascinating when you listen to these swirlers and divestors with this hard wig, soft life crap. Yeah, that's it. He can't even pull up to the crib with the white woman that's not part of his class. You think he gonna be able to pull up with you? Okay. Huh? And Hard Buck says, man, the fact that you got me reading your goddamn name. But Hard Buck says, what about Julia Roberts and Richard Gere? Exactly. Richard Gere, but Greer. But yeah, exactly. That the pretty woman effect. That look, this is the goal amongst all goals. The goal of goals for all of these women. Huh? Even if they're not into white men in specific, this is the goal for all the rich, tall, good-looking, charming man who just sweeps you off your feet and saves you from you. Even if you're not at 10 toes and you're not, on the stroll. He saves you from that retail job. He saves you from that fast food job. He saves you from that cubicle. He saves you from that factory job for the handful of women that actually are in factories. Well, I mean, if you're in a Walmart factory, maybe. Amazon better yet. Yeah. Right? So yeah, thank you for the comment, Hardbuck. Right. Continuing.
As a woman marrying to improve your class, it can happen, but I've seen the families that it happens in most, and it's usually the creepiest and grossest of men.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have like the men where I would say you could not pay me any amount of money to live that life.
Well, and you want to know what's interesting though, Malcolm, is also more and more people are marrying within their social class. In other words, the likelihood of dating down, it has decreased in recent decades. So in 1958, like that birth cohort, 39% married within their class. There was a lot of people who were marrying outside, and presumably this was women marrying up and men marrying down. Then in 1970, that birth cohort, 45%, so up from 39, married within their class. And then from 1976 to 1981, 56% married within their class. And presumably it's only gone up since then. No, this is from UK data, but
yes, but it's similar in the US. She's about to say, yes, because of feminism and women. That's why Mr. Z said they're locking the door behind the other women. The women are they're locking the door. What did I call it? Class? Oh man, I had a really good term for it. What did I call it? Class mate guarding? I think I called it classmate guarding or something like that. Yeah, classmate guarding. That's what Mr. Z said. Yep, classmate guarding. It's not the men, it's the women. As women, quote unquote, ascend with education and status, they're saying, I'll be damned. Hey, America, F your equality. Hey, West, F your equality. Nope. If I can't end up with the men of my similar educational background, income, status, or higher, I'd rather be single. It's the women. What you're saying is when the men were attending college more and more, and they were the ones with the status, they were marrying women with status, they were marrying women without status. When the women start getting some education and status, they said, I'll be damned. Huh? Yikes. Continuing.
Married within their class. And presumably it's only gone up since then. No, this is from UK data, but similar trends are seen in US data. So I think less and less and less people are marrying outside their class. And maybe what's going on too is men are anchoring to a different time and they're assuming that things worked like they used to work, where, you know, men would marry some impoverished hot woman and women would seek out some Prince Charming who'd be willing to consider her. And that just doesn't really happen anymore. People, especially because to your point, people meet at school, people meet at work. And those are typically pretty bound by social class, right?
Yeah. I mean, not that you. I mean, keep in mind, like the guy who was caught cheating, he was caught cheating with the head of HR.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they were. Yeah, it wasn't a secretary. Come on. Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point. Historically, when men cheated at the office and you had the scandals,
it was
of it,
the secretary.
Mm-hmm. Today, most of the scandals I'm aware of tech CEOs cheating with an employee, it is somebody holding a C-ranked position or other senior position.
Mr. Z talking to himself again, right? Dream Hoarders Dating Edition, right? Thank you, Inspired Truth. Ding, 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 ding. Mr. Z did not realize I was talking to himself for like the past, I don't know, 2, 3 minutes. But we're back. We're back. We're back. Right? Inspired Truth got it right, hit the nail right on the head. For those of you that don't know, Dr. Richard Reeves wrote the book Dream Hoarders. I want to say that was his first book. I want to say that was his first book. I don't recall. Right? But exactly. The top 20% of folks, namely the women, are lying to the bottom 80. That's why Mr. Z says luxury beliefs. It sound good. You can financially afford to be single. You can afford that brand of feminism, that decenter man form of feminism. Can the masses of women? No. Can the masses of black women? Absolutely not. Let us not forget that Paris Milan was hiding a whole marriage from her subscribers. Huh? Let us not forget that Paris Milan was hiding a whole marriage from her subscribers. Huh? Continuing.
Don't think where I love the idea presented by Cartoons Hate Her. I think she's wrong that people are just kind of talking past each other and not getting it. I actually think that either subconsciously or even explicitly, especially men who are involved in the gender wars, know that they're class wars, which is why of the
the suspected WS woman, ding 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 ding, she just described Z. That's what Mr. Z been saying the whole goddamn time. Huh? And for those of you that recently came in, you want Mr. Z to prove to you that Mr. Z been saying this the whole goddamn time? This is from a year and a half ago, January 2024.
Having a really nice brunch.
She said it's not about throwing you in prison or whatever, but she wishes you starve. She wants you to feel the pain. She wants you to be deplatformed. She wants you to hurt. And I'm glad she said that. I'm glad because that's what it always was. Excuse my language, Obsidian, as an elder, but I gotta use this word like this. Little niggas like you were never supposed to be able to go back and forth with her.
Yeah.
That's what her issue is. It was never supposed to. As a Ivy League educated black woman, a blue collar black man was never. She was never supposed to know you existed. And there you go. Because women like her are always supposed to be above black men in general. Definitely black blue collar men. Oh, blue collar black men. Oh, come on. Yeah. and y'all, we got BGS and Obsidian. BGS and Black Uru in here.
BGS made this point about when I had some of you might remember this. I had an interview. Actually, it was in the summer of 2020.
I remember. Yep, I remember.
Finally released in early 2022, Elle magazine. Yeah. So the actual interview was nothing like what appeared in the magazine. So I had taped it, and I said to myself, "That's just insurance that in case something like that happened, I could release the actual interview to the public." So I did, and BGS did a review of it, and he had said words to the effect of, and he said basically what you said, Mr. Z. He said, Obsidian is a blue collar brother, but as you can clearly see, he's pretty much dog walking his sister from the University of Pennsylvania. So yeah, you're right. I think that is a kind of big shock about me, and not all, because there are a lot of highly educated brothers in the black man's even to the level of PhDs. But there are brothers like myself, and as BGS rightly pointed out, the secret sauce is that we're always going at it all the time. He even describes it as a culture of Mandalorians. So we're always going at it. That's the reason why we keep our blade sharp all the time. So
I was born in the dark. You adopted it.
The universities, the schools used to serve as gatekeepers of educational class. So as Mr. Z referenced to earlier, in the past, she would not have to engage in someone who was intellectually superior to her, but just didn't happen to matriculate into a university. Now she must engage in somebody who is smarter than her, who might have never even seen the gates of a university or college. And it's very daunting because they have no preparation for that.
That's what. Remember I tell you, Mr. Z. Now they're coming into our battlefield.
Yeah, and they're not ready.
And they're not ready.
Pikes on heads for everywhere.
Girls are never prepared to have a fair fight with boys.
Shout out to Black Uru. Yes, the university system was supposed to be used as a guard gate so that these elite women don't have to see you unwashed masses, particularly you blue collar men, right? And they were never supposed to have to engage with you. And social media democratized the town square, and we'd be giving them that work. They try to hide behind everyday women. Huh? The university said, I agree with Black Uru 100%. The university system was supposed to shield them from having to encounter us dirty, unwashed masses and our lower class thinking. Huh? Us unkept men. Huh? The plebes. The horde. Huh? Continuing.
Especially men who are involved in the gender wars know that they're class wars, which is why many of them support taking women down a notch the same way that far left socialists support the elimination of billionaires. Like both have detailed plans for how to level the playing field. Like on one side, you have Zorhan Mamdani saying, "I don't think that we should have billionaires. We need more equality," like literally. And then you have on the other hand Arthur Therium, whose essays we've highlighted a bunch of times here, arguing that, like in the Aporia article he wrote called The Baby Boom, he argues that we should roll back welfare and pension state income and lower income taxes because that's mostly men paying for women, that we should roll back the regulatory state because that gives bureaucratic jobs primarily to women. We should end
Y'all hear this? She's about to mention affirmative action in a minute. Huh? The white guy said, yeah, I see. Huh. We've said this here. And you see the white guys, WS white dudes, are saying, yeah, oh, so you think you better than us, plus you got a little degree. Watch this. Did Mr. Z not say years ago now? Oh, y'all worried about black men. Oh, no, it's going to be white men to put a foot in your ass. All of my day ones, is Mr. Z lying? Huh? Y'all done pissed the white dudes off. They said, you know what? Take all of it away from them then. Huh? Oh, no, the environment's too sweet. The environment's so sweet, you think you don't need me? All right, watch this. Huh? That's the white dudes. Dear women, dear black women. Huh? The white guys are sounding like your mamas. Oh, you smelling yourself. Okay, watch this. The white guys are sounding like your mom after you hit puberty. Oh, you smelling yourself. Okay, watch this. Huh? You think you can fight with the gloves off? Gloves on. Let's go bare knuckles. That's what the white guys are saying. Prison rules. That's what the white guys are saying. Huh? And you got these two suspected WS, this couple, that's saying, yeah, that's what we're saying. Huh? Continuing.
That we should roll back the regulatory state because that gives bureaucratic jobs primarily to women. That we should end affirmative action for women. That we should defund education because women primarily outperform men in the educational sphere. That we should give primarily all of the pro-nihilist incentives to men and not to women. And that we should roll back the sexual revolution. Like
Yeah. Okay. Because what we're seeing is that when men have the levers, they have families. Yeah, there might be some hanky-panky going on. Yeah. Some people might have to catch some of these backhands a little bit more than usual. Yeah. But they actually have families. When you give it to the women, they hoard on a handful of men, and we don't have families. We don't have kids. That's what happens. It's a free-for-all. Ain't no structure. And the white men said, guess what? We got some fat ass. JD Vance just walked into the building. Oops. Huh? JD Vance just entered the chat. Stephen Miller just entered the chat. Elon Musk just entered the chat. And he don't even really believe in nuclear family like that. Check his family. Oops. Huh? Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel just entered the chat. Ooh. Huh? Continuing.
Tax the rich, except in this case, it's just women. But it's because in this case, he sees women, and explicitly in the Baby Boom article on Aporia, he highlights the fact that women have been given sort of a bunch of artificial tailwinds, enabling them to have higher relative class status and wealth too many men, which makes it harder for men to attract them.
Well, no, I mean, we point out the core problem was in the existing gender wars is women put a bunch of things in place to try to make men and women economically equal, and they've more than achieved that. Now women are doing slightly better than men within our generational cohort, and now they look around and be like, well, I want a man who's still like more successful than I am for a marriage partner.
Yeah.
Where are those men? And it's like, well, you got rid of them. You said they were a problem, right? Like,
yeah.
So I think that a lot of people are very upset about that, especially the men who have been screwed over, because it is much more economically difficult for men these days than it is for women. Especially because as the economy is unraveling, the part of the economy that has received a bit of cushioning is the bureaucratic positions, which are abnormally held by women. Now,
well, and abnormally protected and kept in place even when there's no financial justification for it.
Now, eventually, AI is going to.
Did y'all hear that? They're pinpointing. Remember, these folks are tapped in. They're tapped in. Women, black women, working class women, all around your local governments, your state, your federal, even some of the private sector. They're pinpointing the pain point. Oh, yeah, you think you safe over there? Oh, I see you. Oh, you think you safe? Watch this. Now they're about to mention that AI is gonna, disrupt a lot of this anyway. Huh? You thought you were better. You thought you held a higher station in life. Class, right? We'll see about that. That's what these folks are saying. I want everyone to appreciate this is not black people. This is not black men. This is not black men. These are white folks telling you, oh yeah, we see exactly what button we gotta press. Huh? We know what switch we gotta flick. No pun. Huh? The knobs, the buttons, the levers, we know everything. Watch this. Huh? You're too high and mighty? We'll see about that. Huh? The question of class and gender is what the title is of this live. There are women across the West, women across America, in our case, namely black women, who said, oh yeah, I'm better than all them little Negroes. Huh? Y'all trying to humble me by having me date the bus driver. If y'all recall a few weeks ago, I said it to Kim Foster. Look, there ain't nobody trying to humble you. Huh? That's what you think. That's how you feel. Once again, the question of class and gender. Just because we share the same jersey color, because white folks force us into the same jersey color, forced classification, as DC says. Just because we're in this forced classification of black doesn't mean I have to date you, doesn't mean you own me, doesn't mean I'm responsible for you, doesn't mean I'm accountable for anything. Ew. All right. Huh? Let's see how that money start rolling in when the university lecture tours start getting thinner and thinner. We'll see. Huh? Y'all forgot who y'all were dealing with. Y'all got comfortable with white men. y'all thought they was just gonna take that disrespect? Okay, yeah, that's it. Shout out to white women. When you looked white men in the face and said, we ain't gonna have your kids, we ain't gonna marry you, and you thought they just was gonna eat that. What's the brother name? Diallo Kenyatta says this all the time. Stop telling black people they don't know their history. No, white folks don't know their damn history. Huh? Diallo Kenyatta, as much as I disagree with the brother, he does say that a lot. Huh? Sarge Willie Pete shows you that they don't really know their history for real too. Huh? Yikes. Continuing.
Well, and abnormally protected and kept in place even when there's no financial justification for it.
Now, eventually, AI is going to rip those apart more than other sorts of positions.
Yeah, it'll happen. Don't worry, Arctotherium. Like I said in the AI and social class episode, I think women are the ones who are going to be screwed over by it because they are not going to be the risk takers who win.
Yeah.
So it'll happen. Give it a good time.
Well, and they're disproportionately sorting into the types of positions that AI is just going to be safer to have.
100%. Yeah, because they're middle of the bell curve kind of professionals typically, and men are the outliers, and it's the outlier professionals who are going to.
So we are going to see gender reshuffling within our generation, but it's going to be a fairly ruthless reshuffling to both genders, I think.
Oh no! Well, I mean, at every reshuffling, while I think disruption typically yields more opportunities for men, relatively speaking, that's only like the side of the bell curve for like the sliver of men that like succeeds, like the genius outliers, and not like the equally large, if not larger, number that just completely get.
Are they all going to have Elon harems? Is that how we're going to fix the birth rate? It's the signal harem
with our grok girlfriends, maybe.
No. Like the signal guy and Elon.
So like okay, well, no. That's actually.
Well, y'all heard that. Of course, they're just blabbing at this point. With that, yeah, they go, yo, hypergamy, ladies. You can kiss that goodbye. Unless you go and get in line. Mr. Z has said it before. I was joking, but I wasn't joking, though. Grab a ticket, 1,264 for Elon. Huh? Yikes. Grab a ticket, right? 773 for Jeff Bezos. Grab a ticket, for Warren Buffett. You better hurry up and grab a ticket because Warren Buffett is 90. Yeah, Warren Buffett is up there. Huh? Prosper OG, I'm just saying. I ain't gonna read it out loud, but exactly. They forgot who they dealing with. We used to breed Negroes. Yes, you think you got a choice in this matter. Watch this. For real. Compassion is grab a ticket for Nick Cannon. Huh? Or Cam Newton, name them. Huh? Saint Cyr says, sorry, Asian ladies, you can't get your Oxford study on with Elon. Better hit up Post Malone. Oh, man. Yeah, Elon said, if it ain't white, it ain't right. Huh? Yikes. No, then you know what? Get in line behind Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg said, I'm accepting. You could be number 800 and let's say 859 for Mark Zuckerberg. Huh? Sam Bankman-Fried is in prison. You can't do nothing with that. Huh? Peter Thiel is LGBTQ. You can't do nothing with that. Huh? What's the Winklevosses? You could get it. Y'all could go after the Winklevosses, ladies. Huh? Continuing.
Like, well, I better hitch my cart to a profitable man and make money off him by raising his kids, or have my life supported by raising his kids. Yeah, I do think that we're going to see a lot more of that. For better or for worse.
As we pointed out, our general thesis is that society is going to become less equal, economically speaking, over time because of AI.
Yep. But so speaking of this, like,
shout out to Yanis Varoufakis and techno-feudalism. There you go. Huh? For all of those that checked out the links, I'll put those are old though. I put links speaking about that forever ago. But yeah, there go your techno-feudalism. Even the suspected, even they're saying it. Huh? Did Mr. Z not do the stream about the Revenge of the Nerds? In Compassionate says, tech nerds figured out a way to get all the hoes. Who would have thought? Checkmate, Mitch. Checkmate, Mitch. Exactly. Right? Mr. Z got to, pat himself on the back just a little bit for having a little bit of crystal ball. Mr. Z do a lot of talking, so every once in a while I'm actually right about something. Every once in a while I'm actually right about something. That's why I did that stream about the Revenge of the Nerds. Huh? Uh, and Passport OG says, if her toes ain't pink, we can't sneaky link Elon Musk. Apparently, Elon Musk is just sending seed through the mail. Rumor has it, once again, Mr. Z, you doing rumor? That's some rich type activity. I know. Rumor has it, it was a botch surgery down there. And this is an extreme rumor, though. He had surgery to extend, Junior, make Junior a little bit taller, and it was botched. It didn't work out that well, so he sends seed out. Literally, like, mails it out. How true is that? Shrugs. But that's the rumor in the rumor mill. Don't come after me, Elon. Continuing.
Because of AI.
Yep. But so speaking of this, like I was thinking about this and realizing, yeah, like a lot of this really is about resources and wealth, and it really kind of has nothing to do with gender, even though we're saying it's men versus women, where it's like really
about gender. I think you're wrong there. It is 100% about gender, and it's about the structural unfairness that men deal with.
Okay, it's about structural unfairness. I just like, let me give you some examples though, because I really do feel like most of the cultural group conflicts that we have are probably rooted in class differences. And so let's just go through some examples. Like, consider racial and ethnic group tensions. Look at black-white conflict in the US. While race is, of course, a centralizing organizing principle in American society, research absolutely shows that divisions within racial groups are along class lines, that when wealthier Black and Latino Americans have different political priorities and lived experiences compared to poorer members of the same group, poor individuals may feel less represented and more acutely affected by class barriers than by purely racial ones. And that absolutely shows up. Or immigrant versus native born groups.
I think you're saying that really not clearly. What she means by this is that if you are an upper middle class individual, you are going to look at your Black and Latino friends and say, these people are not different from me. Not only are they not different from me, but the person who says being in a Black neighborhood is dangerous is a complete psychopath. The person who says Latinos are taking their jobs, like, how could you say that? Now, you go to a lower middle class individual and you go into, or a lower class individual and you go into, Black neighborhoods, you're like, hey, this is a dangerous neighborhood. That's like a common thing to say, right? Like, it's common sense. You say, hey, I lost my job at the auto shop. Everyone would be like, yeah, obviously you lost your job at the auto shop to immigrants. That happened to my
well, yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, because it's not just black, white, it's also immigrants. But like the immigrant thing isn't so much. I mean, I think when it's harder for people to maybe express the fact that like you're mad at this group because they're taking your jobs, or you feel like they're siphoning away social services that would have otherwise gone to you. And so you're like, oh, like they're eating dogs and cats. I hate them because they smell weird and they look funny and they talk funny or whatever. But like,
it's that they are culturally different. So again, if I'm an upper middle class individual and I have Black friends and I have Latino friends, because the upper middle class is gated by the urban monoculture, these individuals are culturally going to feel almost identical to myself because they are going to be part of the urban monoculture. Yes. If I am lower class and I am a white guy and I have Black or Latino friends, culturally they're going to be nothing like me. They're going to be a different species for me,
Nice, interesting way of saying as you climb that hierarchy, that ladder, you become whiter and you become less offensive to the elite white folks, whether you're on the left or the right. Huh? Particularly on the left is what he's describing. Or left of center, I should say, more left of center. That probably applies a bit better. Right? As you ascend, you adopt, and you can actually code more like the elite white folks that you're around, right? Where the rest of us, closer to the ground, are more fractured. So you, as a working class Black man, definitely maybe blue collar, you might have a coworker that's white. He might even listen to hip hop, but his life and your life are different. Your cultures are different. Huh? That's what he's describing. How much do I agree with this? Yes and no. Right? Because there's an argument to be made about urban monoculture for working class and lower middle class and working poor also. Right? Especially, obviously, those that live well in urban environments. Huh? So I understand what he's saying. I don't know how much I agree with it. Continuing.
What I mean is they're just a different kind of person to me. The way their families are structured, the type of parties they host.
Well, and I think the fact that they're different absolutely makes it easy for us to articulate and animate resentment in a very colorful way. But I think that the resentment stems from inequality and fear related to resources.
That's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you are in these communities, like the conservative community, which is this lower middle class community, and I say something like blacks are different from whites and whites are different from Latinos or something like that, and anyone in the community will be like, oh yeah, I went to a Latino barbecue and it was nothing like, and I went to a black barbecue, and you go to a lower class black barbecue and a lower class white barbecue and a lower class Latino barbecue, the experience is going to be like you're in a different country. Yeah. Now you go to an upper middle class black barbecue or white barbecue or Latino barbecue, you might have like one little activity or one little thing
dish maybe. Yeah.
It's different. But to these people, when they say there are no cultural differences,
in other words, the further up you go, the different ethnic groups, races, etc., cultures, they do this little signal to their quote unquote community by having one dish that's, part of the culture, part of the community, part of the tribe, etc., but everything else is essentially white with some curry dip. Huh? White with some sake. White with some kente cloth, better yet. Couldn't get that out originally. I understand what he said. I don't know how much I agree with it all the way. Continuing. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat.
It is genuinely because many of them really mean it in the depths of their souls. They have just never experienced it. And so when they hear somebody else be like, no, these groups are actually quite different from each other, they're like, oh, you could only be saying this because you're a racist. Because I know, I just the other week went to my, wealthy black friend's house and it looked exactly like my house, and I met his wife and their relationship structure was exactly like mine, and I met his kids and they go to the same type of doing the same type of thing my kids are doing and have the same type of goals, and we're all the same basic religion.
This echoes the cartoons hater argument in that within each side they're like, I don't even know what reality you're talking about. Like this, none of this makes sense because they don't have exposure to each other's realities.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could just see this with churches. You go to an upper class, black church, and it's going to be a lot like a white church. You go to a lower class black church, and it's going to be very different, right? And this is because the urban monoculture rots society from the top down. It homogenizes society from the top down. So the closer you are to the top, even just aspirationally speaking, the less you are going to see the real differences between people or understand. As I argued today, the modern conservative movement is made up of an alliance of often these different groups. Like one of the reasons why so many Latinos have come over to the conservative party, they're like, we want to maintain our distinct culture. And they say they want us. They say that.
I like how he said that they want to maintain their distinct culture. That's why they're headed towards the conservative side. Ted Cruz, anyone? Huh? Marco Rubio? If you want to throw non-Latinos in there, Nikki Haley? Candace Owens? Huh? They want to keep their distinct culture? Or are they just imitating conservative white folks? Uh-oh. Huh? Y'all Confederate flag is waving a little too high right there, sir. Huh? I'm hearing banjo in the background, a little too tough right now. Continuing.
They say they want us, they say they like us, but they call us Latinx, which like even ignores the basic way our grammatical structures work.
Yeah,
like, obviously, if that is the word they use us and it has so little respect for the way our culture is unique, they do plan to homogenize.
It's like, shut up. Not only am I not Latinx and I'm not Latino, I'm not Latina, I am Colombian. I'm from Argentina. Come on, like what on earth? What are you doing?
Yeah, when it's this homogenization, this burning homogenization, this burning away of uniqueness, which is allowed for many.
I know. We'll have white folks talking about homogenization while they demand that other folks move and think and operate like them. A lesser them, but them. See, you still there? Yeah, I'm still here. Continuing.
burning away of uniqueness, which has allowed for many, like, and I also think that this is just smart because the feminist movement has sort of converged with the progressive movement, which has converged with the urban monoculture, and the anti-feminist movement has converged with the, cultural sovereignty movement, which is the, MAGA conservative movement. And so to converge culturally within your places of strength, i.e., if you go to like lower class communities, even though these groups are different and they recognize they're different, many of them will have friends in these other groups. And those friends will value the way that these groups are different and not want those differences further eroded, right? Like, you'll have your black friend if you're a lower class American or your Hispanic friend, from the job site or whatever, and you'll understand that you guys are very culturally distinctive. You have distinctive gender norms, you have distinctive roles around sexual taboos, you have distinctive, and you want to maintain that distinctiveness. And so when you're coming and you're like, okay, let's all get together and work out how we're going to fight against this homogenizing force, it works to come to this lower and lower middle class place. And if you're all,
I hear you, and you're saying this is cultural, but I'm also saying that I think that the resources, money, class element of it is.
Let me read this comment. And I know the banjo is a Black American instrument, Dr. Thunder. And Dr. Thunder says, maybe possible that there are some values in common. However, there's a lot of cozying up to the dominant society. Agreed. And it's understandable. I'm not even like chastising, folks for this. Like it's what's needed if you want to ascend in America and you want to have a couple of nice things, right? So I appreciate that. We're not doing the whole utopian thing today and being, small-minded here. Let's read that over. And once again, Dr. Thunder says, maybe possible that there are some values in common. However, there's a lot of cozying up to the dominant society. And by the way, banjo is a Black American instrument, right? So we don't want to be myopic here, but yes, I expect that to a certain extent, but I did not appreciate the way they framed that, right? Like, that's not exactly what's going on. Them folks is messing with y'all because they know what a power is. And you know that, all right? And that's why they feel so slighted and so heartbroken when y'all remind them that all they are is a prop. It's a means to an end. It's a weapon or a shield. Huh? The land community right now, everyone? Some of the East Asians and South Asians concerning college enrollment, anyone? Huh? Definitely the South Asians and East Asians, once again, concerning that conversation they had earlier in the year about H-1B visas. And some of them Asians got to see what your average white American really think about them. Huh? Because Vivek thought he was in. Yeah, about that. Dude was born and raised in Ohio. They act like he just fell off a plane, fell off a boat from India yesterday. Huh? Continuing.
Talk about like rural urban divides. A lot of that comes down, it's not just culture, it's also about feeling economically marginalized compared to urban centers, and that tension can feel real. Like we've spoken with people who are like, yeah, man, I feel completely left behind, who live in more okay, consider also like boomers versus millennials. When you actually look, I mean, millennials will make fun of boomers and vice versa about like their cultural things, but in the end, the big resentment is the younger generations are like, the boomers have all the money, they have all this wealth, they're like, oh, just work and you'll be fine. And like, it doesn't work that way anymore. And there's a lot of resentment there, and it stems from resources.
I mean, this explains why if you go to all of the protests against Trump, it's like only boomers, if people have been talking about it. These are boomer protests. There's like no young people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to your point about this urban monoculture as well, I think a lot of that also it boils down to class. You have a higher resourced, more educated class of people that has become homogenized. And then you have a bunch of other people. And it gets weird with that, because then you have the urban monoculture also being really socialist, and like they hate people with money, but they are the ones.
They're not socialists. What socialism and communism is it is the ossification of the bureaucratic hierarchy that is existing within our society, but just making it so that the bureaucrats have to work even less. When we talk about like AI eroding bureaucratic jobs, it does that if we maintain capitalism. If we switch to socialism, they get to keep their positions within the system forever.
Okay, yeah, I'm keeping power. And communal narcissism, as we talked about on today's episode.
At any time in human history,
I don't know if people really hate folks with money. Are there folks that hate people with real money, millionaire, billionaires, like liquid millionaires? Yes. Is that really the issue, or is it that we don't want your wealth to override the democracy and you have an outsized amount of power and influence, and what the 99% or the 95 or maybe even the 80% what they're advocating for, what would best help them in their lives and their families, the top 5-ish, 1-ish, 0.1-ish percent of folks override what's best for the vast majority? Are you sure it's hate? Huh? Or is it that you have an outsized amount of influence and power and you could give the masses of everyone else the middle finger and tell them to go kick rocks and die and be silent about it? Are you sure it's hate? I tell y'all, Doc be cutting up in the comments. Look, Doc, you missed Trell had the comment of the century about these two earlier. He might be asleep now. Trell, ooh, man, I don't even want to say it. Somebody say what Trell said earlier, please, so Doc will read it. Thank you, Doc. You said it way better than I did. And Dr. Thunder says the issue is not the money, the issue is the politics. Thank you. Right? Somebody please put what Trell said earlier in the comments so Doc will read it, but I don't want to say it. Trell said it looked like he's looking at two. Anyway, that comment. Somebody say it. There you go, y'all. And here we go. Continuing.
Time in human history is never about wealth redistribution in any sort of real sense. It is about the ossification of a bureaucratic power structure.
Okay, well, that explains it.
The way people jump, hop, skip, duck, dodge, tie themselves into pretzels and knots to say, yeah, I know you say that's what it is, but that's not what the real issue is. No, but I told you what my real issue is. No, I mean, like, I heard you, but what I really think is that you're jealous. I didn't say that I was jealous. I know that's not what you said, but I think you're jealous, so you're jealous. Okay. They just want to keep their bureaucratic position. Yeah, and to be fair, I think some of it is that. And with that, it's also that people like you have an outsized amount of influence and power. And I'm pretty sure it's like 75-25, what you're saying with the bureaucracy. I agree. I'll even give you 70-30. But no, it's your outsized amount of influence and power. That's detrimental to the masses of everyone else. Continuing.
Conflicts in the end are about competition over jobs, housing, political power, and class position influences who perceives opportunity and who feels threatened. And with the gender wars, a lot of this comes from, man, like women have been given all this like affirmative action and they get all the bureaucratic roles and they're doing better in education. And there's a lot of resentment about it. And maybe it would be more productive if people just explicitly talked about that, like Arctotherium does, whether or not it's true. Because some studies have found, like, they looked at some areas where men did get better economic achievement and better social status, and that still didn't produce more children. So I don't, like but we should be having that conversation instead of just being like,
outside of children, women today, like if you look at this generation, there's been some graphs that we've gone over in other episodes. Yeah. They increasingly, like over the past 10 years, believe that women increasingly, like with a sharp increase, there is a perception among women that women are being treated worse over time. That the society is more unfair towards women, that college entrance is more unfair towards women, even though like by the facts, this is objectively untrue to anyone who's like living in reality. And so I think that, they say, well, you're just living in different realities because you're seeing different class norms. Yeah. And it's like, no, we on the conservative side acknowledge their class norms and their reality. Often, like there's some instances where there's like the maid situation and they just have no idea what's going on because they've never experienced it. Yeah. But broadly speaking, we acknowledge their class norms and they are unaware, or they actively choose to be like, no, you people aren't experiencing these things. They
I actually agree with him on this. I actually agree with him on this because you see this when we, Black Manosphere, engage with the FDs who might not actually be that far up in class. At least he wasn't up until the YouTube money really started rolling in. but definitely the Kim Fosters. I'm focused on her once again. She's an avatar. It's not really about her. It's about the black women in specific that she represents, which is we can acknowledge. I'm pretty sure you okay, fine. You don't want to feel forced to. You don't want to be told or suggested or implied to you that you're going to end up with one of us blue collar men who you feel like you're more educated than, you are of higher status than, you earn more than, and society, namely the black community in this case, is saying you're relegated to that because y'all wear the same jersey color. Okay, fine. You see how Mr. Z was able to just spout that off? The Miss Fosters of the world, if I'm being extremely super ultra mega generous, like straight jacket level generous, right? Like how KMS says stupid generous, they might acknowledge that the young Miamis of the world, when we go on dates with women like that, they're like, where the money at? And they might do it in a crass way. But they won't acknowledge that they're the same people. Ooh, goddamn, Z. You just take 3 and 4 dates to do it. You just do it more covertly. Jesus Christ, Z couldn't get it out initially. I'm sorry, yo. Huh? You just look for the signal markers. Huh? That's the difference. So yes, I agree with him that we're more likely to acknowledge what they're saying and that it might actually be real, and that it's not just a little group of folks that we're interacting with that's on this, than they are. They're going to tell us it's a figment of our imagination. They're going to tell us, as when I had the conversation with Diallo on his channel, right? That no, it's what you going after. It's not, right. This is not really a thing. It's you. Alrighty then. I agree with him on that. And continuing.
Choose to be like, no, you people aren't experiencing these things. They will say no.
Yeah, because they're the privileged ones and the men are the lower class ones.
No. They'll be.
I agree with her on that. And exactly. They're the privileged ones. And so they get to pick and choose which parts of your reality they'll acknowledge, and they'll say, you know what? Actually, yeah, no, that's a. Now, this doesn't work exactly the same in the black community as it does in white society. Right? This is where the Kim Foster types, her ilk, are really angry at everyone in this society because they can't fully insulate themselves, or they can't insulate themselves enough from the plight of everyday black folks, including everyday black men. And they resent that. Once again, forced classification. They resent that there's ripple effects that hit them coming from the unwashed, dirty masses of black men and black boys, particularly in, for sake of this conversation, the black manosphere. FD should be insulated from even ever having to engage with anything we say. Remember what he said to me initially when we had the conversation. He didn't have to do none of this. He did it essentially from the kindness of his heart. Huh? We're a non-factor. FD should be insulated. Olay should be insulated. Kim Foster should be insulated. Huh? Yikes. Continuing.
Like they'll be like, oh, like upper class women will be like, oh, like upper middle class, I just can't find a guy who meets my standards. And we're like, yes, you can't. I agree. Here's why. We'll say like, oh, I lost my job because of an immigrant or something like that at the car shop, and they'll be like, that didn't happen. Or like actually, there are really big differences between the ethnocultural groups in this country, and then they're not exactly living harmoniously with each other. And they'll be like, no, you haven't experienced that, because or crime is actually a real problem right now in my city. Can you do something about it? And they're like, well, I just looked outside and it's not a problem, right? Or like, they stole my car and really that was a good thing because now somebody who needs it has it, you know?
Yeah, probably need. Yeah. Oh gosh, those arguments I haven't heard in a long time, but there were absolutely those arguments of, well, I think he needed my bike more than I did.
There was a not too long ago, or maybe like a couple years ago, post by a comedian where somebody had broken into his car and he goes, well, this is just like the price you lay to live in a wonderful city like LA. And it's like, well, you know, if you actually didn't have a lot of money, somebody breaking into your car is a huge financial deal, even if they don't steal it.
Yeah. Remember when your car was broken into? And it just was, It's not like even people who, you know, are not on the lowest ends of society aren't really hurt by that. I mean, we still own that Mazda and we drive it every day. Like, these are forever cars. Like, I don't know what to say.
By the way, if you're wondering about our frugalness, I still live with the very first car I ever got, and we work on it all the time to keep it good. But yeah, am I gonna be one of those guys who keeps the car for so long it becomes like a classic?
I don't know if a 2010 Mazda is ever really gonna become.
It's a good car.
Yes, it is. I'm very fond. It's been like nothing. It doesn't do it. It is the Simone of cars, right? Like workhorse, doesn't complain, doesn't break down very much as long as you drive it the right way. You know,
classics after 30 years.
I don't know. Is there some designation? Is this like so. Vintage versus antique? You got to school me. I don't do cars.
A car needs to be 20 years old to be a classic. This car is 15 years old. I'm 5 years from being a classic. It becomes a classic in 2030, Simone.
Well, hold on to it, my friend.
I had no intention of selling it. That's crazy. I could actually be that old man who's driving around a classic car. Just
the proud owner of a classic car that your mom maligned. We can't even say online what she called it. That's one of those few things we can't even say.
Right. Yeah. Anyway.
God.
Oh, wait. Do you have any other arguments here?
No. I actually want people to think more about why they're actually mad about things or mad at groups.
I disagree. I think that they're mad at them because of the unfair dating and market dynamics and the systemic unfairness towards men. But what I will
and I think that's a resource thing.
No, but what I will I'm saying this is their predominant area of madness. What I will agree with this article is that
not area of madness, the primary reason for their grievance. You make it sound like they're crazy.
Whatever. You see, this is I'm speaking like a lower class person, area of madness, and you are speaking like an upper middle class person, reason for grievance.
Well, I don't think that men appreciate being referred to as hysterical. That's what they do to the women.
Simone. So no, I'm just using like broad words that anyone can use, and you're trying to get all fancy with your language here. You're fancificationing in your words, but
upper middle class feminine ways.
Yes, but the point I'm making is that I think that she's wrong and that the grievance areas are being misinterpreted. But what I will agree with is that these two movements have become coded with different social communities, different social classes, and I think it's important to ask why are they being coded with these.
I agree with him on that. When you check out FD's live comments, when you check out Kim Foster's live comments, you do see, especially less for FD because it's so diverse now, but more for Kim Foster because it's mainly still college-educated Black women. They just completely different, right? Because even for the ones that are not lockstep, same type of background and upbringing, which considering the Black community is rare, right? To be a Miss Foster and have her upbringing. With that, the aspiration, when you read through the comments, you really appreciate, oh no, they live in a complete alternate universe compared to those folks in Mr. Z's live comments. And we're having different conversations. I agree with him on that. Continuing.
Foot soldiers of wokeism are impoverished people, but they are impoverished people living with like 20 people in a like polyamorous house in like Manhattan or Portland to live the simulacrum of the upper middle class lifestyle. There is this obsession with living within the simulacrum of this lifestyle, and I think that part of that is downstream of women's psychological differences in men, and the males saying, "Hey, I want to be accepted by the norm, like of this larger like new right community. Therefore, I am going to appeal to the average man. I'm gonna like Elon with the gaming stuff or like Asmongold or like," and I think that is also downstream of the dominant culture within this movement, which as we've noted is our own culture, which is the sort of greater Appalachian like clan-based cultural tradition, which is very okay with differences and very hostile towards elitism and aristocracy.
Well, what about all the men who keep trying to flash around money that they make?
Okay, so that ended there. Further on, They mentioned South Florida because I think they lived in Miami for a little bit. And the husband said something interesting, which is he could tell who was Latino by how they flash money, right? So essentially, the waspy whites were far more subtle, right? In the, I guess the Latino whites are far more in your face with how they flash money. And they mentioned Jeff Bezos and his new wife and how kind of unbecoming it is, him and her, and how they move and how they comport themselves considering their wealth. So once again, the question of class and gender. I wanted to cover this way. Um, I think I'm going to have to go back and review some of my old stuff. Might actually, and I think I'm going to start doing that more and more. Reviewing some of my old stuff to show that we've had these conversations. Number one. Number two, to show how far we've gotten in this conversation. Number three, to say, Mrs. Z told you so. Not saying any of my subscribers doubt me. Many of you have said this stuff in the comments. Y'all put me on game, right? Or at least face me in the right direction. Now that we're here and we're having this conversation, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes with automation and machine learning. And like the price of college, or the returns of college and university, right? Particularly if you're not going for a very specific career field that is lucrative. It's going to be interesting to see how that class element of this conversation plays out, particularly in the Black community, which once again, we've acknowledged the lines for class in the Black community are very blurry and fuzzy. As Telescope was saying, it's because race, right? How high can you really ascend considering class as a Black person in America, right? How high can your class position truly be in America as a not white person, particularly obviously as a Black person, right? And a Split Gem says, and thank you for the super chat, I think legacy Black families aren't being quote unquote protected in those Black women's opinions, as their white counterparts do protect. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But these same women wanted to compete with their legacy counterparts. Yeah, no, I've said that. Like, what we're seeing is Black women and Black people, right? This is like speaks a bit to the miseducation of a Negro. I'm kind of skimming that line a little bit. As you attend like a Harvard, right? And I can even consider some of my experiences working for the Florida Democratic Party, and when I was working at one of the offices. When you're mingling with certain folks and you appreciate the delta, the gap, right? It's no longer theory, right? You fully understand, oh, that's how y'all moving up this way, right? When you're privy to certain conversations, Mr. Z wasn't so immersed in that, and definitely not for too long. But I think when you're immersed in that, especially at a young age, I think, yeah, there grows a resentment there. There grows a resentment. And as I've said before, you can't take it off on the white folks. You can't take it off on white men or white women. So you end up taking it off on Black men because that's who you're sanctioned to take it off on. This resentment, this anger that your elite Black self can't move like the elite white woman. You can't weaponize the crocodile tears. You can't weaponize the crocodile tears the way the white woman can. Right? There will be attacks for you engaging in certain activity with certain type of men, right? You can't keep on fumbling the bag and then just getting another one and another one and another one. And essentially, a split gym, which you just said that black women are saying is
Fair. That's not fair! That is not fair!
that's what you just said black women are saying. I get it. Right? I get it. And split gym, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Right? Yikes. Oh yeah. No, I saw the I know that's what y'all were making reference to earlier. And Saint Cyr says the discussion of class came up as black folks again this past week because of the recent Ralph Lauren collection that was released. And the ad, right, with the jeans, in the girl making that kind of innuendo or implying certain with the jeans and the blue eyes and yada 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 yada. Look, I thought we knew what white folks were on. I will never forget this. That news segment where they were speaking about William's wife, right? William's wife, and they were like, "Yeah, the rotational cup of the nose," and da 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 da. And then you saw the brother and the sister both looking at the white news anchor lady like, "What?" Right? And like, yeah, white folks always try to justify the freaking European beauty standard, right? We're the beautiful ones. We're gods of beauty. Yawn. Don't let Mr. Z start getting into his bag and tell you how y'all age, though. Oops. Especially the women. Yikes. Huh? Of course they gotta tell themselves that. Y'all don't remember when there was the picture years ago of the two the black woman and her daughter, and you couldn't tell which one was which? You could tell. But that line was real blurry, right? You're looking at a 20+ year age gap, if I'm not mistaken. And that mom, black mom, looks super young. And then there was the white British woman and her daughter who tried to do the same thing, and it was not giving. Shout out to the women. It was giving, it was not giving. Huh? So yeah, white folks gonna do that. Look, man. I expect it. I expect white folks to keep on trying to hammer over the head to everyone. European beauty standard. Remember, we're pretty. Remember, we're attractive. We're the standard. Remember, we're the standard of beauty. Remember, we're the default. Remember, it's us. Remember. We're the beauty standard on planet Earth. Remember, you're trying to be like us. Go ahead, women. Go here's some straightening cream for your hair, and here's some cream for your skin to light it up. Huh? Here's some eye contacts, and here's some bleaching for your hair too, so you can get the blonde. Huh? I expect white folks, especially white women, especially, to be white women. Remember, we're the beauty standard. You want to be us? Remember. Okay, yeah. Yawn. I expect them to uphold the beauty standard, right? With the double entendres about eyes and jeans and blue and yawn. Huh? Exactly. Shout out to Sydney Sweeney and the American Eagle for the eugenics advertisement. Yeah, man. That's what we are right now. If y'all haven't been paying attention, these white folks is using this word. They brought back the eugenics word with a vengeance. We back to talking to us. So that's why I was Myron. I said I was going to review it. I'm going to review it. Now we're back to, we never stopped, but now it's a resurgence of bell curve talk and eugenics and IQ talk. And you got certain black people tap dancing. Of course they tap dancing. And then you got the white folks saying yes. Now dark was it not the Dark Enlightenment. what is that phrase that they like? Dark woke, right? So yeah, and they just want to say the same things they've always said. They want to go back to monkey and low IQ and low impulse control. And I mean, it's not systems. You're just dumber than me. I'm surprised you know how to breathe, right? So white folks just want to white folk. Huh? It's not systems. It's not systemic oppression. No. There's no corrective measure we can ever create or build to at least start you off on even footing. You're too dumb. Your culture's too faulty, right? They're making those arguments about South Africa right now. Huh? So I expect the white folks to white folks. I expect them to white folks. I expect them to justify the BS. I expect it. Huh? So on that note, y'all, we ain't gonna keep y'all too much longer. I just wanted to speak about this. The question of class and gender. And I wanted to remind us that we have had this conversation before on this channel, right? For those of you that are still here, I'm going to play one more again. For those of you that came in a little bit more recently, I'm going to play this for you. Here you go.
I am having a hard time with the idea that this conversation and the backlash is primarily about people's disdain for classism, because I don't even think people really have an issue with classism. That's the thing. I don't think people generally have a problem with elitism as long as they're not on the outside. You have a problem with a woman you think is too old, not pretty enough, too aggressive, saying, this is my boundary, this is my line. That's it. It is not about protecting working class Black men. It is about punishing quote unquote uppity Black women. And that's why I don't give a fuck. All of a sudden, everybody want to be a champion of the working class. All right, sure.
And what she's really saying is that it's a zero-sum game. You can't claim to care about the unwashed masses of working class Black men, because that's going to take away from her project of being essentially an elite rich white woman. Oops. Huh? She needs all the social cachet. She needs all the sympathy. She needs all the money. She needs all the attention. Huh? All the political capital. Because if we start focusing on the boys and men, as a matter of fact, didn't she stream about this or do a video about this a little while ago? Same thing with Dr. Tyne when she was talking about the ultimate victim. Uh-oh. Z just remembered something. It's a zero-sum game for them. So the same blue-collar men that they're disgusted by, they think they're better than, they refuse to advocate for the sons of those men so that their daughters can have somebody to marry in the future. Huh? Or at least date and feel like he's quote unquote on her level or above. Huh? So I'm glad Miss Foster said that. Yeah, that's almost, we're working on a year and a half, 2 years old at this point. But I'm glad she said that, because that lets you know where her mind is. It is a zero-sum game for her. Y'all don't really care about blue collar men. Y'all don't really care about the working class. Y'all just want to punish women like me for not being attractive and having an opinion. That's what she's saying. Once again, to my title, the question of class and gender. Huh? And so I played that for y'all. Let's play this for you guys.
having a really nice brunch.
She said she said it's not about throwing you in prison or whatever, but she wishes you starve. She wants you to feel the pain. She wants you to be deplatformed. She wants you to hurt. And I'm glad she said that. I'm glad because that's what it always was. Excuse my language, Obsidian, as an elder, but I gotta use this word like this. Little niggas like you were never supposed to be able to go back and forth with her.
Yeah.
That's what her issue is. It was never supposed to. As a Ivy League educated black woman, a blue collar black man was never. She was never supposed to know you existed. And there you go. Because women like her are always supposed to be above black men in general. Definitely black blue collar men. Oh, blue collar black men. Oh, come on. and y'all, we got BGS and Obsidian. BGS and Black Uru in here.
BGS made this point about when I had some of you might remember this. I had an interview. Actually, it was in the summer of 2020.
I remember. Yep, I remember.
Finally released in early 2022, Elle magazine. Yeah. So the actual interview was nothing like what appeared in the magazine. So I had taped it, and I said to myself, "That's just insurance that in case something like that happened, I could release an actual interview to the public." So I did, and BGS did a review of it, and he had said words to the effect of, and he said basically what you said, Mr. Z. He said, Obsidian's a blue collar brother, but as you can clearly see, he's pretty much dog walking his sister from the University. So yeah, you're right. I think that is a kind of big shock about me, and not all, because there are a lot of highly educated brothers in the black manosphere, even to the level of PhDs. But there are brothers like myself, and as BGS rightly pointed out, the secret sauce is that we're always going at it all the time. He really started as a culture of Mandalorians. So we're always going at it. That's the reason why we keep our blade sharp all the time. So
I was born in the dark. You adopted it.
The universities, the schools used to serve as gatekeepers of educational class. So as Mr. Z referenced to earlier, in the past, she would not have to engage in someone who was intellectually superior to her, but just didn't happen to matriculate into a university. Now she must engage in somebody who is smarter than her, who might have never even seen the gates of a university or college. And it's very daunting because they have no preparation for that.
That's what. Remember I tell you, Mr. Z. Now they're coming into our battlefield.
Yeah, and they're not ready.
And they're not ready.
Pikes on heads for everyone.
Girls are never prepared to have a fair fight with boys.
Go. Huh? And ending out, as Black Guru was saying, this was supposed to insulate them. This university degree, this university attainment was supposed to insulate them. Imagine Harvard level, right? Harvard level now. Once again, the question of class and gender. Not even just intimately. We're not just speaking about intimately here. Romantic intimately. These folks are not supposed to even know we exist. We should not be, they should not have to contend with anything we have to say. It is a travesty that what we say has just as much weight, more weight, just as much weight as what they say in the public square of social media, in the town square of social media. What a travesty in their minds. Huh? And so on that note, let's read this from Joe's and end on out. And Joe says, August 13th, when YouTube is rolling out ID for older than teen content. So I gotta look this up because somebody put this in the comments earlier. I didn't know anything about this. Maybe I wasn't just paying attention. I missed it. So I'll check this out. Thank you, Joe's, for that. Shout out to Joe's. And shout out to Joe's. I was listening to some of the old stuff. And Joe, for those of you that don't remember, Joe's was the one that came up with minute late reviews. So shout out to Joe's. Shout out to Joe's, right? And we still use that occasionally on this channel. Minute late reviews, right? So shout out to Joe's for that. And thank you for the super chat, Joe's. So I gotta look into that. It's getting a little late over here on the East Coast. So yeah, we'll check that out and yeah. Thank you for that information, Joe's. So we will pause right there. Actually, let me see this. Our officers K. Williams speaking on the Shannon Sharp case. Yeah, I saw it. We might do a review on it. I have to do another gumbo stream because there's a bunch of stuff that I've been saving and archiving from Instagram, from YouTube. Yeah, and I'm gonna have to do a gumbo stream on one of these days soon, and we just kind of review all of it. I might throw the Myron thing in review in there because I really want to speak on it. I don't want to spend too much time on it though. But shout out to the white dude who said we don't owe you us being next to you, and I agree with the white dude. I agree. White folks don't owe black people or any people being next to them, huh? And we don't owe you these tax dollars neither, huh? You could die in the middle of the street for all we care, huh? Walk right over your body. Hey, if people want to be scandalous, like and mean and assholes about it, we can be scandalous, mean and assholes about it, huh? But I truly do believe that no one owes anyone companionship or even being nice and cordial. It's a great thing to have, but right. So, Inspired Truth says, "Gotta throw the crab into the gumbo, Z." Right? Oh man, but yeah, yo. So we'll end out here. I wanted to bring this to y'all. I know it wasn't too controversial. We're in and out the month, right? So we will cover something else. I know I said I might have did a revision, a more detailed response to Tito. Right. So yeah, we'll just pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content, for the love of God. And Mr. Z out, y'all. So y'all have a great rest of y'all night. Mr. Z out.